702.
Health and wellness.
23 minutes before 12 o'clock. We start with our health and wellness feature now. And today we are talking about this excitement that we're seeing about protein. It's suddenly become such a big wellness trend. Have you picked that up? Because I wonder if it's really worth the hype. If you've not been on social media lately, so what's been happening is that a lot of people have been talking a lot about protein and the benefits of protein. Everybody's talking about how, whether in the shakes, cereal, in the snacks, even in coffee, this is something that is becoming part of everyday life. Like it used to be something for, bodybuilders, for instance, the obsession. But protein is being sold as the secret to better health, to stronger muscles, and even slower aging. But are we maybe going a little overboard? Do we really need all that extra protein, or could some of these products actually be doing more harm than good? And I want you to share your experiences with us about how much protein you consume, and do you actually prioritize protein? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. You can share your thoughts with us on the WhatsApp line on 072-702-1702. Jenna Bowes is a dietitian and a nutritionist who's joining us on the line. Thank you so much for making time for us, Jenna. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We're seeing protein everywhere, from shakes to cereals to coffee. Why has it suddenly become such a big wellness trend?
I think in general, so many people have become so much more health aligned, wanting to look into longevity, what keeps us ticking over, and protein is definitely the cornerstone towards prioritizing our health. We're looking at longevity being so closely linked to body composition, not just total weight. So here I'm talking towards your muscle to fat ratios. And when it comes to muscle, protein is definitely one that gets placed in the spotlight, and even more so in today's day and age.
So how much protein do people actually need each day? And do you think most South Africans are already getting enough from their food?
Well, when it comes to South Africans, we know we love a braai, so absolutely. Protein's quite easy to meet because our requirements are only 0.8 grams of protein per kg of body weight a day. But this figure is quite low. It's basically your maintenance requirement in a day, and we're starting to look at having high requirements, especially in active or in athletic population groups, pushing that number to as high as 1.2, perhaps even to 1.4. And in certain other population groups where muscle breakdown might be happening, maybe those that are in a weight loss or an energy deficit phase, endurance athletes that are breaking down muscles through the activities that they are doing, or simply those that are wanting to gain muscle, we are seeing people wanting to hit protein requirements of close on 1.4 all the way up to 1.8, and in some population groups, being the bodybuilders, even looking at an intake as high as 2 or 2.4 grams of protein per kg of body weight. But when you do the actual maths on that, that's not that excessive. It's not very high at all, especially when an average protein shake is giving us as much as 20 to 30 grams of protein serving, and protein brand dependent.
But some experts are saying that we're overdoing it with protein. Do you think that's the case? Are people consuming more than they really need from your experience?
Sometimes, not always. Meals are often quite carb heavy and not always protein dominant. This might come down to the convenience of food. It might come down to the cost of food. Access to something like a bread roll is that much easier than cooking up a chicken breast or boiling an egg. And that's also why protein powders have become so popular, because they do offer that convenient side to them as well. So yes, some people are getting enough, maybe even too much protein. Like I mentioned, the numbers are quite low and it is quite easy to meet. But we do need to be calculated in our approach, and we do need to prioritize protein if we are wanting to hit those numbers, just for reasons as previously mentioned.
Okay. So protein powders are also like a big part of this trend. What are the main risks of relying on them too much?
Protein powders and supplements in general aren't always very well regulated. There are lots of different protein powders on the market. They range in cost, they range in efficacy, and they obviously range in how they're monitored and made. We have seen studies that have shown that protein powders made by well-known manufacturers are actually filling products with fillers that are masking the action of having a protein content higher than what they actually claim to have. That talks towards absorptive capacity that our bodies have to take in the protein that is put into these products. In terms of what I'm referring to is, if you are taking a product that's giving you 20 to 30 grams of protein, we question how much of that protein is your body actually absorbing and utilizing in comparison when it's taken in more of a food, more natural form.
I see. It's 18 minutes now before 12 o'clock. I want to take some questions, some inputs as well from some of our listeners on 011-883-0702. Alternatively, you can send us your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. We're talking about this sudden trend, we're trying to understand what's really driving the popularity, especially among ordinary consumers today, this issue of protein, because we're seeing it everywhere now. And maybe that's something you've noticed. Maybe you've always prioritized protein in your food. Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. Let's start with your WhatsApp voice note.
Morning, Clem, and good morning to your guest. I just want to ask your guest about the carnivore diet. I see there was a huge trend about the carnivore diet, but I've spoken to a few people that said, people had bad complications like too much cholesterol. Someone had to get a heart bypass, and this was a big trend. So thank you, Dave from Pretoria.
Thank you for that, Jenna.
So the carnivore diet is one that's strictly animal-based, which includes obviously your meat, your fish, your eggs, your dairy, and it doesn't necessarily include any of your vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Now, when it comes to the individual, we've got to understand we are all made up differently. Some of us might have a predisposition to something like diabetes. Others might be predisposed to cardiovascular events or high cholesterol. Knowing what your genetic makeup from family history or even current medical standings is really important before embarking on a diet that is advocated for in terms of general as opposed to individual on personal needs based. So a carnivore diet, one that is rich in animal products, may result in someone consuming high fat from animals, which is generally found in our animal meats, things like the skin or the bone or even visible fat on certain cuts of meat. And these fats are actually inflammatory by nature. So they can translate to increasing cholesterol because of the saturated fat in terms of their content, as well as being paired with a lower fiber intake, which is actually anti-inflammatory and can in fact have cholesterol-lowering properties.
And then Sabi on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, I became vegetarian but didn't take enough protein and I became diabetic. Is the shortage of protein, could it contribute to that, to diabetic?
Not necessarily the shortage of protein, but perhaps the type of carbohydrate that was consumed in replacement of the protein. We've got carbohydrates, beans, legumes, your grains that are all really high in fiber. And then we have carbohydrates, white breads, pastries, muffins, cakes, etc., that are very refined in nature. The refined foods are lower in fiber. They will influence our blood glucose levels more drastically than foods that are higher in fiber. And as mentioned, foods that are high in fiber are very anti-inflammatory. They help regulate our appetite as well. And foods that are going to influence our blood glucose levels more drastically are more than likely going to result in difficulty managing your overall insulin and perhaps even translate to a diabetic tendency or pre-diabetic tendency.
Yeah. Okay, I've got some more WhatsApp voice notes coming through. We'll get to them after the break. It's now 14 minutes before 12 o'clock.
702. Health and Wellness.
11 minutes before 12 o'clock. We are talking about protein and the hype around it, and I'm taking your questions as well and your inputs on it. Let's start with WhatsApp voice notes, and I've got some more questions that I'll put up to my guest, Jenna Bowes, who's a dietitian and nutritionist.
Good morning, Clement. This is Selma from Roodepoort. Too much protein can overload your kidneys, specifically in cats, but in people as well. They even have a special renal diet that the makers of cat food make. That is a lower protein, has a lower protein value, to especially take the load off the kidneys of cats that start getting kidney disease to help them to live longer. So, and when I spoke to my doctor about this, she said, yeah, humans have got the same problem. If your kidneys start giving up, or too much protein will also affect your kidneys. So just would like you to know that. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Oh, thank you for that. Jenna, this is Chad in Johannesburg South, Jenna, who says protein shakes will never replace a good old chicken and broccoli diet and intense weight training, because chicken and broccoli don't have side effects, he says on the WhatsApp line. Let me first get your reflections on that before I move on to the other questions.
Okay, so with regards to the kidney comment, absolutely, there will definitely be certain population groups or certain individuals that struggle with their kidney function, and those people who struggle with kidney function should be wary of how much protein they are taking. But for a general healthy individual, taking in a high protein intake throughout the day will not compromise kidney function directly. Kidneys only get compromised through certain medical conditions, certain situations, even like something as simple as severe dehydration. That can impact your kidney function, and then kidneys don't tolerate the high protein diets that we follow as well. But in a general healthy individual, your kidney function being optimal will tolerate a higher protein intake. And we don't know from a research standing point of exactly what a specific protein brand is going to do in terms of side effect. What we do know is the ingredients within those brands, how well they are researched, and what effects they can have. So often these products are sweetened with sugar alcohols, or what we might call non-nutritive sweeteners that might not hold calorie load but can actually translate to digestive discomfort in some individuals. We also might see them causing digestive discomfort because of certain fibers or fillers that certain brands use. So you are going to be safer with consuming a whole food diet. Protein powders need to be seen as processed food items. So that is definitely a warranted statement. Absolutely agree with that. But like I said, they do have their place. They are generally fillers, and they are used to inconvenient space.
Mm.
Good morning, Clement. Lisibana here from Roodepoort. And just on the protein issue, Clement, I think, unfortunately, the protein powders are being sold as the one magic pill that will solve many issues. And that's unfortunately not the case. Protein is part of other elements that you require, like carbohydrates, sodium, and the like. So a balanced diet is more important. And in fact, you can get your whole protein intake through food, things like chicken breasts, red meat, and the like. Obviously, you don't want to overdo it on the red meat because you might end yourself up with gout. But balanced diet is more important. But if you are supplementing because you train, there's other things to look at, such as creatine, your hormones, your age, your gender. All of those things come into play. So the exam question is not answered just by protein, as it is somewhat foretold.
Very good morning, Clement. If you can just ask your guest, as an athlete, when is the best time to take protein? Bye.
All right. Yeah, Jenna, for athletes, when is it best to take it? Closer to, I don't know, race day, if maybe you are a runner, or how do you advise?
So protein is needed for all athletes. Athletes in general have slightly higher requirements, but we need to identify what the athlete is competing in. Is it a runner? Is it a sportsman like a rugby player? Mm. What are their individual protein requirements? As well as the individual sporting requirements. Is a high-intensity sport? Is it an endurance type sport? Is it a muscle or strength type of exercise that's being completed? The timing is important from a recovery perspective, and the timing in terms of recovery is on completion of exercise. There is a little to and fro in research with regards to what that window should look like, but ideally we do want our next meal to contain at least 20 to 30 grams of good available protein. Food first approach would be my advocation, but you can also look at protein powders again from a convenient or from a food restrictive type of reasoning. So we would look at total protein in a day for an athlete, as well as aiding in recovery, as well as having enough proteins available in general to make sure that we are matching and having a surplus of what might be broken down through the sport that they are participating in.
Okay. There's a question about some powders that are often loaded with sugar or, additives. What should consumers look out for, especially on the labels?
Protein powders are, as mentioned, not well governed. When you go and you look at a label, you've always got an ingredients list as well as a nutrient panel. Just to summarize, an ingredients list is what you're going to be putting into the product, what type of protein powder, be it a whey or a casein or a protein from pea or hemp or soy, if they were plant-based options. You'll also see what is being used to sweeten the product. Protein powders are not nice in terms of taste. Protein is in fact very, very bitter. So if you taste a protein powder and it tastes sweet or it's got a chocolate flavoring, you're wanting to look out for what is creating that sweetness. As mentioned, most protein powders are isolated protein, so they do not generally have a carb content or even much of a fat content. That will be very low. You will be able to identify how much protein, carb, and fat as well as the total energy of that product is according to the actual nutritional label, not the ingredients list. The ingredients list, you can identify the type of sweetener, be it a maltitol, sorbitol. Those are what we call sugar alcohols, or things like asulfamine, aspartame K. Those are non-nutritive sweeteners, meaning they don't have calorie, but they do offer you sweeteners. You'll also see on the ingredients if products have provided things that might aid in digestion, be it probiotic or digestive enzymes, just to lighten that load of the protein powder on the gut. But you would find all of this on your actual ingredients list as I explained.
Jenna Bowes, thank you so much for making time for us. She's a dietitian and nutritionist.